reality check. If your youngest employee understands your business better than you do, you don't have a staffing problem, you have an ego problem. Welcome back to Speaking with Confidence, the podcast that helps you build the soft skills that lead to real results. Communication, storytelling, public speaking, and showing up with confidence in every conversation that counts. I'm Tim Newman, a recovering college professor turned communication coach, and I'm thrilled to guide you on a journey to becoming a powerful communicator. Roughly 3 out of 4 managers admit that Gen Z is the most difficult generation they've ever had to lead. If you are a boss who still expects a rigid chain of command, these younger employees probably feel like a complete mystery to you. They tend to care more about finding a sense of purpose than just collecting a paycheck, and they have no problem calling out a broken process right in the middle of a team chat. Most of the advice you hear focuses on how to manage them or how to force them into old ways of doing things. But the truth is that we have this whole situation backwards. The smartest move you can make right now is not trying to manage them, but instead let them mentor you. This is not about coddling anyone or being soft. It's actually a strategic takeover of your own leadership style, where their blunt communication and digital-first intuition become the exact tools you need to stay relevant. The old school hierarchy has officially collapsed, and if you are still trying to be the all-knowing expert with every single answer, you've already lost the room. Success in this new era belongs to the leaders who can listen like they may actually be wrong. And this is exactly why your boss, and honestly you, need a Gen Z mentor just to stay in the game. The real issue here is a crisis of confidence, though it's probably not the kind of crisis you would expect. For decades, leadership confidence was built on what Tim Elmore calls the badge, which represents your title, your years of experience, and that corner office. Confidence used to mean being absolutely certain and never showing a hint of doubt. But that model is falling apart because it creates brittle leaders who simply can't adapt. When your entire identity is wrapped up in the badge, any question from a junior employee starts to feel like a personal attack. And this is the specific reason why Gen Z feels so disruptive to the status quo. Again, Tim Elmore calls them the sandpaper generation, but they're not actually trying to be difficult or annoying. Their constant demand for transparency and speed acts like sandpaper, wearing down the facade of the all-knowing boss and exposing the fragile confidence hiding underneath. And clinging to that badge makes you the biggest bottleneck in your own company because every decision has to wait for you. Your team eventually stops sharing their best ideas because they can spot a fake leader from a mile away. And this is where the bridge model comes in. And it's the primary skill a Gen Z mentor can teach you. Bridge confidence has nothing to do with your title and instead focuses on the strength of your connections and the level of trust that you build. It comes from a place of genuine curiosity rather than the pressure of having every answer. And Tim Elmore uses a framework called a leg, like a leg to stand on, to show how this actually works. A is ask, L is listen, E is empathize, and then G is guide. Leaders who are stuck in badge mode almost always jump straight to the guide part. But the first 3 steps are the actual work of building the bridge. It requires you to have security to admit when you don't know something. And the real problem is not that Gen Z lacks experience, but rather that leaders lack the confidence to be wrong in public. You need to be comfortable letting a 24-year-old teach you a new AI tool while the rest of the team watches. And that is the necessary shift from the fragile badge to the resilient bridge. And Gen Z are the best bridge builders we've ever seen. How exactly do these natural bridge builders make it look so easy? Their secret weapon is something that older generations might mistake for a weakness, but it actually gives them a massive advantage. Let's go back to Tim Elmore for a second. He describes this as epic communication, which stands for experiential, participatory, image-rich, and connected, and it serves as a perfect blueprint for building a bridge between people. Instead of sending out a dry, boring email that nobody wants to read, they create a shared experience by using a Loom video or a Slack channel filled with memes to make a project feel more human. They have this unique way of weaving personal relationships and professional information into one single thread. To the old guard, this style often feels unprofessional because jumping from quarterly goals to TikTok references seems like a total distraction. But that fluidity is where their power comes from, and it shows a high level of contextual intelligence that allows them to read the digital room and change their language to fit the vibe. They can switch from a tone of formal authority to one of casual connection in a single breath, choosing to lead through relatability rather than relying on a job title. Their famous directness isn't a sign of disrespect, but rather a form of bridge-building efficiency that helps everyone get things done. Growing up in a world of constant information overload taught them how to cut through the fluff. So while a boomer manager might write 3 paragraphs just to soften a critique, a Gen Z employee will simply tell you the truth. If a specific process takes twice as long as it should, they're going to say it out loud, and you have to realize it's not a personal attack, but a way to solve the problem faster. Learning how to shift your language like this is the most important skill you can pick up right now. You need to match your message to the specific moment instead of following a dusty corporate handbook that doesn't really apply anymore. Figure out when a formal memo is actually necessary and when a 30-second voice note would do a better job of building trust with your team. If you only ever speak the language of authority, you eventually just become background noise to the people that are around you. Your emails are going to get skimmed and ignored because you're talking to people instead of actually connecting with them. Fluid communication is the one thing that separates a boss sitting behind a desk from a leader who builds a real team. And since Gen Z is already building the bridge to the future, your only way to move is to learn how to walk across it. Now, setting this up doesn't require a weird HR force program, but it does require a serious shift in your mindset. You have to stop pretending that you're the only expert in the room if you want people to actually follow you. Take a good look at your team and find the person who acts as the unofficial tech support or the culture translator for everyone else. This is usually the person everyone runs to when software breaks or social media trend feels confusing, and that is exactly who your mentor should be. Your first move is to ask their honest feedback on something specific using the a leg method, which means you ask how they handle a client update, and then you listen. You have to really listen without waiting for your turn to talk or trying to defend the way you've always done things, because your only goal here is to understand their perspective. And this is the part where the velvet brick concept becomes really important for your leadership style. You need to be the velvet by creating a space where people feel comfortable giving you blunt feedback without you getting defensive. But at the same time, you have to be the brick by keeping your standards for the work incredibly high, because true respect means holding the line on quality while staying flexible on the path you take to get there. And once you've built up some trust, give that person a small platform to show what they can do. Let them take over a 5-minute segment in your next meeting to explain a new app or rising trend, or have them draft a client email in their own voice so you can review it together. You aren't just giving up your time during these moments. You're letting them demonstrate what connection-based leadership looks like in practice. It sends a clear message to the rest of the office that great ideas aren't tied to a specific job title or years of experience. But don't forget, the most vital step in this whole process is being willing to play the role of the student in public. When a younger employee shows you a faster way to run a report, make sure you thank them for teaching while the rest of the team is actually watching. That one simple act breaks down the office hierarchy more than any corporate speech about psychological safety ever could. It proves that your confidence comes from knowing how to learn new things rather than pretending you already know everything. And when you give yourself permission to be taught by others, you give everyone else permission to grow. And that's how you stop managing a position and start leading a real team. Take a second to look ahead and imagine how things change once you actually commit to this shift. The person staring back at you in the mirror won't look like the same old boss, and your daily routine will feel lighter because you stop trying to be the single point of failure for the entire office. And since you aren't shooting the messenger anymore, feedback starts flowing up the chain naturally, and your team finally feels safe enough to bring you real solutions instead of hiding their mistakes. Decisions start to move a lot faster when you trade that fragile need to be right for the much tougher confidence it takes to find the best path as a group. You're essentially turning into a bridge leader who stays connected to the cutting edge without having to frantically keep up with every new trend yourself. And this happens because you build a direct pipeline of information through your mentor, meaning your authority now comes from the quality of your connections rather than just the title on your door. You won't find yourself constantly trying to manage morale like a chore, because high energy is just what happens when people feel like their voices actually matter. Think of this as the ultimate confidence hack for the modern workplace. It isn't that shaky fake confidence where you pretend to know everything, but the unshakable kind that comes from knowing you can learn anything from anyone at any time. Instead of treating generational gaps like a headache you have to deal with, you'll start using those differences as your biggest competitive advantage. The friction of this process didn't break you. It just polished your skills and left you more adaptable than you've ever been. The old school way of running the team is dead, and the traditional hierarchy has officially flipped on its head. Your real power move in today's world isn't about defending your authority or acting like the smartest person in the room, but strategically surrendering that control so you can pick a much more effective kind of influence. Now, your homework for the next few days is actually pretty straightforward. I want you to find one Gen Z colleague and ask them a single question that starts with, how would you handle this? And once you ask, just sit back and listen to their perspective. Then find one tiny piece of their suggestion that you can actually put into practice. And this is exactly how the future gets built. And it won't be led by the people who think they already have all the answers. The future belongs to the leaders who can learn the fastest. That's all for today. Remember, we're looking for progress, not perfection. Be sure to visit speakingwithconfidencepodcast.com to get your free ebook, The Top 21 Challenges for Public Speakers and How to Overcome Them. You can also register for the Formula for Public Speaking course. Always remember, your voice has the power to change it. We'll talk to you next time.